It is day 2 of our bra series, and today we are working on a sporty little soft bra. We're also going to talk about inclusive sizing. It's a really big deal right now in the indie pattern world, but are your inclusive sizes really inclusive? We're going to talk about that. Today we're working on another free bra pattern that I found. It is from Madeline Intimates and Lingerie. Now, Madeline has like tons of stuff on her website from bras fully made that you can order. You can get patterns from her. You can order kits that are specific to her patterns. It's kind of like a one-stop all over lingerie, whether you make or buy. It's a good website to check out. Now the bra we're working on today is called the Beret. On her website it says the Beret is a sporty femme pull-on bralette. Okay, so we are not working on closures yet. There is, however, picot elastic. Picot? Picot.
Picket. Picot.
Okay, so there's an American pronunciation and a British pronunciation. American is picket and British is picot. I always thought it was picot, like when I was tatting lace, so I'm just gonna go with picot. You do what feels right. You live your truth. We're just gonna be all okay with that. But this is this stuff. All right, when I first saw this pattern, I was really excited because there was 2 different pieces for the center front cup. There was one for the plus size range and one for the regular range. Now, this gets me excited because although it's been a huge deal recently in the indie pattern world to make patterns more inclusive in sizing, what I'm finding is, not all, some companies are doing a brilliant job at this, but a lot of the time what I'm finding is you have a pattern that goes from extra small to 3X and it's all done off of the same pattern block. A person who's 3X is not the same shape. My body, I, at a 3X, was not the same shape that I was when I was a medium. They call them curves for a reason, people. If you're using the pattern block that is meant for your like small, medium, and large, and you're using it for a 3X, it's not gonna fit the 3X properly. It's not. So I was excited when I saw that it had a separate piece. Unfortunately, I still wound up having to grade this pattern quite a bit. And here's the funny thing is I had to do a full bust adjustment, and in the world of plus size clothing, I am not a busty woman. It's just not in my genetic code. Like, I cannot buy a dress at a plus size store because if it fits over my hips, forget about it. It's like I could fit 2 cantaloupes still in the top with my chest. I mean, sometimes it's handy. I don't have to bring a purse. Just like, what do you need? You need Kleenex? Yeah, no problem. You need sunglasses? Sunscreen? Yeah. Oh, bug spray? Yeah, I got that. You need a snack? Okay, so this one time in junior high school, I brought my first ever boyfriend home for dinner and my grandmother made chicken. Asked him if he wanted a leg or a breast and he said a leg and she said, "That's a good choice if you're dating somebody in this family." There's a chance I've been in the studio by myself too much lately. Okay, here's the deal. I made 3 of these suckers, okay? So the first one I did pretty much the pattern as wrote, with the exception of my full bust measurement was a 3X and my band measurement was between a 1X and a 2X. So I just took that band measurement and the back piece, I cut a 2X but kept the height of the 3X. So what I wound up with was a bra that's really cute but doesn't fit. The second bra that I made failed completely by my own fault. I was running out of this black lace, so I ran to my stash, I found some black lace, I gave it a tug, I was like, great, it stretches. I didn't take the time to actually measure the amount of elasticity that it had. The pattern calls for a 30 to 40% stretch. This only had 25. And honestly, by the end, I wound up using a fabric that was like a 75 to 100% stretch just to get the bra that fit me well. I'm still going to take you on that whole journey because this could be a really great bra for you to wear if you are more in the average size range. And if you want to give it a try and you want to do the full bust adjustment, I'm going to show you how to do that. Most of the sewing tutorial is on this bra because I didn't see the point in filming it twice when all the steps were exactly the same. So I'm going to take you through the full bust adjustment. Then I'm going to take you through sewing the bra. But first, let's take a look at what the fit issue was. So I'm going to go put this sucker on. on top of my tank top, because y'all know I work in a junior high school and we don't need things being weird at work, okay? Okay, admittedly, the tank top makes it difficult. Such a sucker for jewel tones. I know, I should have had like a white tank top so you could really see the lines. So here's the thing. It's this. Okay? This is still breast tissue. Like, this needs some coverage. So the center panel where I had that different piece for plus size, that fit fine. But over here, like, it wasn't working. So when you're making a bra, you're working with negative ease, which means technically you're making a garment that is actually smaller than your body by a little bit, and you're relying on the stretch in your fabric to make up the difference. And that's how these garments will hold tight to the body. Now, the percentage of stretch in your fabric is going to be super, super important. So one of the things that we have to look at when we are choosing our fabrics is how do we measure the percentage of stretch? We do that typically with an 8-inch ruler. I'm going to use a corner of my mat here. So I'm going to use 4 inches of fabric, and I'm going to try and get as close to 8 inches as possible. So I've got 4 inches of fabric. I'm going to hold that down at the 1 inch mark, and I'm going to pull and see how far I can get. So easily I can get to 7. Now, I can really stretch it and get it to 8, which would be 100% stretch, but I would say like it's a comfortable stretch to 7, so that's a 75% stretch. If I got to 5, it would be a 25% stretch. If I got to 6, it would be a 50% stretch, 7 would be 75, and 8 would be 100%, because I've doubled, 100% is I've doubled the length of the fabric. So because of the way the two bust pieces come together, I know that this seam is my bust point seam. So to find the apex, all right, I'm gonna come down 1/4 inch from the widest part of my garment. Why 1/4 inch? Because that's what my seam allowance is. So that line is where I'm going to make that adjustment on the side. Now, I'm not gonna have to make any slits vertically on this pattern because it's already giving me a vertical seam. What I do have to do is I have to make this seam a little bit bigger, more so at the bottom than at the top of it. By the time I get up to like here, I'm gonna start fading it back into the original lines. There we go. Now, I don't have to worry about actually drawing this out on here because I'm going to cut this one out and then I'm going to trace it onto this piece here. Now for this measurement, let me go ahead and I'll cut out this bodice piece and then we can take a look at what else we have to do. So I've got a piece of paper back here to tape my pattern piece onto, and I've just gone and slit this open along that line that we made. Okay, so what I know is that when I tried it on, I wanted like an extra 1.5 inches of coverage towards the armpit. I know it seems like a lot. I think I should put that mark down there. I'm just gonna have to like go by the measurement that I took when the garment was on my body, and I'm going to do that. Now, we've got the issue of this doesn't match up anymore. So I'm just going to make a straight line. And I don't really need this like angling up here. So I'm actually just going to sketch that down. And then the one other adjustment that we're gonna have to make to this is our back piece is now going to be much too short for that. All right, now before I cut this out, you can see there's sort of like, this line is a little funny. So I'm just going to sketch that so that I have a nice rounded edge. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out, and then I'm gonna use this piece to adjust my other piece. All right, so what I did is I have this mark here that is the extra width that I added onto this piece down here. So I'm just flipping this over so that I can match up. These two edges are the edges that have to be sewn together, and they have to lay flat when you sew them together. Just held it up to my window because I do want to have this top piece slope as close as I can back to where the old strap line was, but it is gonna come out just a little bit. All right, so I already cut this because I thought my camera was running and it wasn't. So just for my own fitting, I'm actually gonna cut this one on the back piece on the 1X line and keep the 3X for the bust. All right, now we're gonna talk about the dogs. No, not those dogs. DOGS, direction of greatest stretch. So when you're looking at your fabric, you should be able to pull it and see if it has stretch in one way and not so much in the other way, or maybe it has stretch in both ways, then that would make it a 4-way stretch. So on your pattern pieces, it will show you the line, which on many pattern pieces would be the grain line, but on a bra, it's gonna be the direction of greatest stretch, okay? So that is how I have to line up these pattern pieces before I can go ahead and cut them out. First piece I'm gonna put together are the center cup pieces. Now you're kinda gonna make like a bit of a bra sandwich. You're gonna put one piece of lining with your top piece of lace, and then right sides together, you're going to put your next piece of lace and then your next piece of lining. Now, this admittedly would have been easier had I used the spray-based that the instructions recommended that I use. However, we have people in our family that have chemical sensitivities, so using an aerosol adhesive just wasn't something I was into. So it just meant that I had to take a bit more time to really like line stuff up and make sure that it was really precise. Once you've got those lined up, go ahead and stick a couple of pins in. I put my pins 1/4 of an inch approximately away from the top and bottom edges, and that's because that's our seam allowance all the way around. And so I only want to sew in between those two pins. There we go, it's all sewn together. And now we need to put the side breast panels on. So once again, we're gonna make a sort of a bit of a sandwich. We're gonna put the side cup and then the sewn together center cups. And then we're going to top it off with the lace side cup. And that will be right sides together as well. Now that I've got those all together, I'm gonna pin them and I'm going to sew them with a straight stitch. All of the vertical stitches in this bra are done with a straight stitch, and then the horizontal ones will be done with a zigzag. There, the cup is together. Now I'm going to repeat that on the other side, and then we can put on the back. All right, so I've already layered my back piece underneath my side cup. So it goes back piece lining, side cup lace, and then back piece lace. And then I'm going to stitch that with a straight stitch again. It can be tempting to want to use like some other kind of straight stretch stitch, but don't. It's just gonna chew into your fabric too much and make a weaker garment. And honestly, the added support of the regular straight stitch is something that you kind of want here. All right, so in order for this to work, you can see that I have my two pieces for my back strap and my seams are all nicely tucked inside there. So for this to work on the other side, what we have to do is we're going to actually line up our pieces for the other side cup first. Then I'm going to take my lace piece and bring it around the front of the bra and layer that on. And then I'm going to take my lining piece and I'm going to pull it around the back and layer it on that way. Don't worry, you're not making a great big bra knot. You'll be able to easily put everything right once this seam is sewn. So there we go, we've got the layers, 2 layers of lace, 2 layers of lining. And now we're just gonna take that back panel of lace that we stretched around the front of the bra, and we're just gonna fold it over to the back. And there you go, everything is where it should be, on the side it should be, and all the seams are just nicely tucked in where you don't have to have them rubbing on you. All right, now we're gonna put the picot elastic on. Now the picot elastic is going to be attached with the picots facing in. So all those little loops are gonna be pointing to the center of the garment. And I'm just lining it up so that my edge of my elastic is lined up with the edge of my fabric. I'm going to go ahead and pin those And then I'm going to use a fairly narrow zigzag stitch, about half the width of the elastic, to stitch that on. And you want your row of stitching to go as close to the picots as you can. Even if you feel like maybe you've gone over the edge a little bit, that's okay, that's what you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and stitch those on now. Now I'm just gonna go around and I'm gonna do the exact same thing, put the picot elastic from the outer edge of the cup all the way around the back and then up the other side of the outer edge of the next cup. All right, here we go. It is all stitched on. Now I'm going to roll that lace over so that the lace is now on the back of the garment and those picots are just peeking out. Ooh, picot, peeking. Yeah, that's how you're supposed to say it. Picot is peeking out of that bra edge. Now it's time to put the band on. The band is gonna overlap your bra fabric by about 1/4 inch. And I use the sheer exact science of vibology to do this. And I just keep checking as I'm laying it down. Now, what the pattern says to do is to pin all of the elastic on to get the size of your band and then pull it all off and then sew your band into a big circle and then pin it all back on. But I would rather just leave a section open at the back. I'm gonna go ahead and stitch all the way around it, leaving that section open, and then I'm gonna come back and finish that up. So here I've got all of that sewn on, except for about like 3 or 4 inches at the back, and I have the center back marked with a pin. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna lay it out and I'm going to see where I need each piece to be sewn together so that they meet exactly at the right dimension. I mean, honestly, if you mess it up a little bit and it's not in the exact center, that's fine. What matters is that it matches the size of the fabric. So I've marked each layer of this elastic with a pin, and now I'm gonna hold those pieces up and flip them around so that I have right sides facing together, and then I'm gonna match up those pins. There we go. Now that I have those matched up, I can go and just use a straight stitch to stitch those together. There we go, it's all stitched. I'm gonna trim it at about 1/4 inch. Then I can fold my seam allowance and I'm just going to run that through the machine again just to sew those seam allowances down, and then that will make sure that the band just lays really nice and flat and there's not gonna be anything like rubbing or uncomfortable. All right. So the seam allowances are down, but I'm still left with like this chunk that's not sewn down. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pin that, and then I'm going to finish zigzagging the rest of the back on. There we go, the band is on. Now it's time to put the hardware on. So I've set out the white hardware just because it's easier to see on your screen, but I'm using clear hardware. So I'm gonna take the loops and put them on the top of my bra cups. And I'm folding those down a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, actually probably about 1/2 inch. And I'm gonna use a bar tack to hold those down. Now I've done a little sample bar tack here so you can see what that looks like because my other ones are tone on tone and they're really hard to see. A bar tack is just a very narrow zigzag stitch that is done very close together, and you can go back and forth over it and make it almost like a satin stitch in the end. Now we need to attach the straps to the bag. The measurements for my bra were 6.5 inches between the straps, which from the center marking leaves 3.25 inches to each strap. Now, the pattern also said that every pattern should have a 16-inch strap. Anytime a pattern tells me that anything is a one-size-fits-all, I question it. So I actually tried the bra on and tested out how long my straps needed to be, and I ended up cutting mine at 20 inches. So make sure you check through that. Now I've got my hardware here. I'm going to take the piece that has the bar through the middle, and I'm going to feed my bra strap through that. And then I'm going to make sure that it folds around so that wrong sides are together. And I'm going to use a bar tack to just stitch that to hold it on. Now that those are all together, I can take the free end of the bra strap and feed it through the loop that we put on the bra previously. I am going to do this with the wrong side of the elastic facing up. That way when I bring it back through that piece with the bar, then I will have the right side of the elastic facing up. This bra is a little bit different in that the loops are at the front, which means that your bra adjustment is going to be closer to the front, which, you know what, I'm not mad at, because I don't like having to be a contortionist to adjust my bra straps. Now it's time to attach the bra straps at the back, and we've already marked those with a pin. So I'm going to overlap the bra strap about 1/2 inch into the back panel of the bra where we've marked it. And I'm going to use 2 bar tacks to fasten that. All right, one extra thing that I have done, an adjustment that I've made to this bra, is I've taken the strap all the way down and bar tacked it at the bottom of the bra, as well as where the instructions say to bar tack it. Now this was an afterthought for me, so I did splice it in, which meant that I wound up with an extra bar tack on that side, so it's not as pretty as it could be, but it is what it is. The reason that I did this is because since I used fabric that had a bit more of a stretch than what was called for, is when I would put my bra on and the strap would get pulled taut, this was sort of like rolling out a little bit. And so just to stop that, I just extended that strap all the way down to the bottom so that it keeps its direction when it's stretched. Here is the one that has been adjusted with the full bust adjustment. I have way more coverage up here, which is exactly what I need. So on top of doing the full bust adjustment, I also used fabric that was like 75 to 100% stretch. The pattern called for a 30 to 40% stretch, and I don't feel like it would have been enough. So I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. We worked on a couple of new things to add to our bra making repertoire. Next week, okay, here's the thing. Next week we were supposed to start moving into supportive activewear, so like sports bras and supportive tank tops, stuff like that. But I'm kind of thinking, after this experience of having to regrade this pattern, that maybe we should look at how to draft our own bralette pattern based on our own measurements. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, should I just like keep moving on with like what I had planned to do, or is that something that would be beneficial? If nobody comments here, maybe I'll put it to an Instagram poll, but go ahead and comment. I will take it into consideration. And next month, I mean, we'll have another bra tutorial. I just don't know what it's going to be yet. So until then, do all the things, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you know when I have a new video drop, though it's looking like it's every Saturday. So I think we're going to stick with Saturdays. It seems to be what's working for me. I hope that's what's working for you. I hope you have a great week. See you next time.